Welcome everyone to the session. So I have really enjoyed the every presenter's talks in the past day. Felt very inspired, and some of you reached out to me on LinkedIn with questions you have. So I will try to address all of them in the talk today. And do feel free to go to the link at the top to put your questions there. Or something you want me to talk about. If I'm not covering it, it'll be easier for me to see the questions since I'm viewing the notes on a separate screen. All right, so I assume everybody who's looking at this session right now, you all have different backgrounds, but you are here because you want to learn more about machine learning and how you could also get into the field. But it doesn't matter if you're a completely new beginner or even if you're just new to coding in general, or if you're proficient in programming and also familiar with some of the machine learning concepts, AI concepts, or if you have done some machine learning research and projects, but you want to create a more attractive portfolio, then you're at the right place. So I am here today to show you how I went from zero to where I am today so that you could also achieve your goal. So let's get it started. Within my last year, during my bachelor's at UC Davis, I was awarded for one of the top 50 MLH Most Inspirational Hackers Award. And the paper based on a model I built using reinforcement learning for a smart grid model was awarded one of the best IEEE conference paper awards. And this model is currently used in production at a real power grid. And also I won 5 hackathon awards in a row for the projects my teammates and I built using applied machine learning technologies since the first hackathon I've ever attended. But can you imagine that just 3 years before this, I struggled to even understand the most basic computer science concepts, such as a for loop and what is even a function, input and output. I had a very hard time figuring everything out, and I was very disheartened. I tried to learn the data structures and algorithms in the lower division computer science classes, but I just felt like I was so far behind my peers. I felt I was lost, like I was left to survive on my own. But toward the end of the year, I was able to find an internship doing web development at a nonprofit human rights organization working on content management system, even though this internship wasn't related to anything I learned in school the previous year. I was still able to make an impact such as in tasks such as content management system, version migration, using file transfer protocol softwares. And this was a defining moment in my tech career because my peers and my manager, they gave me very good feedback. They gave me the confidence I needed to continue pursuing the career and not give up. So it's important to understand your learning curve. If you're also like me, where you have to spend weeks, months, even years to even get started in a field you don't have any previous experience with, do not give up because there will be light at the end of the tunnel. So let's dig in to see how I got started in my machine learning journey. When I took my first machine learning class after the summer internship, I learned about the major areas that fall under the big umbrella, artificial intelligence. So natural language programming processing is used in conversational AI or sentiment analysis, algorithms that are able to determine the sentiment of the text, classify it into anger, happiness, sadness, different sentiments. And there are great cloud computing platforms which can help you integrate this technology into the application. predictive analysis. This is for things like, there are examples like stock and weather prediction. I'm not saying how well current research is doing in predicting stock prices, but it's an area where you could use the historical time series data to attempt to find some pattern within it. And then there is computer vision, which is heavily used in autonomous vehicles. So you know the self-driving cars, their ability to determine if there are pedestrians or moving cars in the surroundings, or tell if an image is a cat or a dog. And then planning and optimization. This is, the examples would be real-time strategy games, AI games like StarCraft, which I will talk about later in the later slides. And also such as AlphaGo, which was able to defeat the best Go player in the world. And when I was learning all of this, I just fell head over heels in love with the probability proofs in the machine learning theory class, and even implementing a neural network using Python from the ground up. So the takeaway from this is find the one thing that speaks to you. It might not be in the intrinsic beauty of writing math proofs like how I found it, but whatever it is, just find your passion and don't let it go. So now we're going to talk about some action steps that you actually care about on how you could create your very own machine learning application. So the first step, you need to have a team. It might be possible that you want to create an application from the ground up all on your own, and you don't want anyone else to be a collaborator in your GitHub repo. That's completely fine. But it's always good to have a support system. In the case of creating a machine learning application, this would be a mentor, a professor, or some industry professional, someone who is a little more knowledgeable than you, who can provide you with some insights, or if they know more about the work that you're currently working on, the existing state-of-the-art applications or research that you can learn something from before you develop your application. And then the second step would be to decide the type of application. If you decide to proceed with developing the application, then you would need a team of 4 at least, in my opinion. You need someone who knows the entire app development stack, such as the mean stack, so that you could actually develop an application which can be used by users. And then you need someone who is familiar with the backend server and database side of things. And then another person who is a front-end developer who knows the design aspects of things, and with front-end programming languages such as JavaScript, CSS, HTML. And then most importantly, it is an ML application. You'll need someone who knows the machine learning libraries, the tools to use, or someone who is very good at learning them, who is passionate about them, which is very likely that that person will be you. So you need Python. Usually it would be the language to go. The passion to learn the technologies is very important in this, because there are always new tools coming out, and you have the ability to learn if you have enough passion and you want to invest in enough time into making it happen. And then you have to determine who are your intended targets. Who will use this model after you develop the application? This is very crucial in evaluating the model performance. So then after that, you will develop, I'm on the third step. Then you have to find the training data. That's important because machine learning model, you can't have one without data. There are a lot of open source databases on the web where you can find in pretty much any machine learning tasks you can think of. But do keep in mind that finding the training data isn't the hard part. What's harder would be finding data you could use to test how it works after you have trained your model. I'll give you an example. During one of the hackathons I attended, my teammates and I, we created an application to predict seizure for patients who experience epileptic seizures on a regular basis. So we were able to create the application. The accuracy was very well to predict the seizure on the training data that we used, which was open sourced, but we weren't able to find any patients who that we could actually test our model on, because for the medical research, this concerns the privacy laws in the case of medical research. The HIPAA compliance will have to be applied. So just keep this in the back of your mind when you conduct your in the first research period, what kind of data you will need and where you could possibly get your data after you create your model. So then the last step will just be develop and then deploy your trained model. Decide on your platform, if it's the web application, the mobile application, where you want to host your services if you're going to use the cloud platform. This is for an application, but if you decide to go into the research route, you'll have to do a lot of literature review of peer-reviewed research papers, so that you know what the existing state of the artwork is. So yes, let's move on to an actual example. I also took an AI class during my undergrad career. During this class, my teammates and I, we created a reinforcement learning model for the real-time strategy game called StarCraft. Maybe some of you have played it before. I have, very addicted to it. So for this project, we were able to make some marginal improvement for the performance of the AI based on the best performance AI model we could find at the time. But later on, AlphaStar, as many of you may know, AlphaStar, which was created by DeepMind, was able to defeat the best human StarCraft 2 player in the world. So you see how powerful AI reinforcement learning can be, and looking at all this, it gives me so much thrill to continue pursuing in the field of AI using machine learning technologies. So this project is how I was able to get my summer internship in machine learning research at a smart grid institute. I was able to compare the two systems, the similarities there are between the two systems. So let's talk about the basics of creating a reinforcement learning application. You have to define three things very clearly. In the case of the game AI for StarCraft, the stage will be whatever you can see on the screen when you play the game. The actions will be building, training new units, new everything you can, like for the structures, the upgrades, everything action, or you can go scout your enemy's camp and then attack them. All of these fall under the action variable. And the third thing will be the reward. The reward for the reward function in the StarCraft project, we defined it as for every iteration of the game, if the AI we have is able to win the game, then the AI would be rewarded by accumulating the points. Otherwise, the points will be deducted from the system. And in the case of the smart grid, it was very similar. The power grid would be like everything that defines a power grid system status will be the state. And then the actions will be the actions that a human operator is able to take to fix the contingencies in the power system, such as if there's an explosion nearby, it blows up the buses and destroys circuit within the power system. And you would be able to take some actions to change the settings in order to navigate around the contingency. And the reward function would be defined as if the action you perform during this iteration is able to fix the contingencies in the power system. And this one achieved very good results. So the lesson, the takeaway from this story is that you have to apply what you learned to the new projects and keep taking on new challenges. Never be afraid, and never be afraid you cannot do it, and never be afraid that the projects are not important enough. If you just slap it onto your resume for all the meaningful projects you do, then it'll add up. And chances are the recruiter, when they look at your resume, they'll see that you have this experience, and likely you are able to take on a similar challenge at work, even though you might lack industry experience previously. And also, it doesn't matter what industry you are in, you could always employ machine learning technologies into your domain. I've talked to several people who approached me on LinkedIn. I know that some of you are in the legal domain and the healthcare domain. It is possible to use the extremely powerful machine learning technologies to make your system better. You just have to have the willingness to learn. It might be very hard in the beginning, but the longer you work in this field, the easier it becomes. So how should one your portfolio if you wish to be known for your machine learning expertise? My suggestion is to attend the hackathons. If you are a student, there are collegiate hackathons out there, very famous ones. You can look them up. It's a very good way to give you confidence. I have a little anecdote to share with you. So after I took the machine learning and AI classes at college, I had this strong desire to just make cool applications at hackathons using what I had learned, and also to win prizes. I remember how unbelievable I felt the first time at my first hackathon, when my team's name was announced at the closing ceremony. I couldn't believe when my team's name was called the first time or the second time in that same closing ceremony. It gave me so much adrenaline rush and the confidence I needed, even though it's bad to seek approval from the outside world. But when your values are being affirmed from an external organization, it just makes it official somehow. It's like when you get an offer for an internship for a full-time position, it makes you feel good. So from hackathons, I also learned to stay up when I have to. Usually it would be staying up for 2 nights, 3 days straight, and then probably only sleep like 30 minutes each night. But it just felt so incredible when you actually create your application in the end, something that other users can use and benefit from it, especially if it's in an area that you're passionate about, such as benefiting so for the social good or for people with health needs, anything like that. Don't forget to ask questions. I don't see any questions. Maybe you're posting in the chat. I'll check in a little bit. So yes, or competitions if you're interested. It's a great way to increase your profile visibility as well. There are Kaggle competitions. They're very famous and hard to beat, but it could be your short-term goal if you're motivated. So keep applying what you learn to new projects, always. And I will end my presentation with this, something which I hold dear to my heart. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to get to where you want, as long as you get there in the end, even if it might take you 10 years. Okay, so let me see if anyone had any questions for me. Okay, I see quite a few questions. I see some of you are completely new beginners. If this talk isn't enough to answer all your questions, do feel free to, this is a QR code for my LinkedIn profile, so scan it and connect with me there. So one question I'm seeing is, okay, I'm currently working as an associate data analyst. Could you help me how to elevate myself and the resources? How can I start? Firstly, congratulations. You already stepped into the door of data science. And I hope you are enjoying your work. So yeah, continue excelling at your work. And if you wish to advance in your career, it's important to work on more machine learning projects. If your work doesn't involve too much model training, and if you think you need more knowledge in the domain, then you could take some training courses on the side. There are a lot of them that are really good. I'm not going to promote them in the video. But yeah, I'll talk to you after. And some other question. How do you find teammates for the hackathon? Very good question. So if it's a collegiate hackathon, I'm going to take it that probably, Sharon, you don't have much experience with it. So for all the collegiate hackathons, the organization would create channels using specific softwares where you could look for teammates. There will be channels for like teammate finding. So that's a good way where you can like put your LinkedIn profile and tell them what kind of experience you have and what kind of projects you're interested in creating, and what skills you need, you're looking for in your potential teammates. If it's a industry-backed hackathon, then I'm sure they'll have, I haven't attended too many of those, but I have seen in some of the talks during the conference that some organizations host women-only hackathons, which sound really incredible to me. So you should definitely look into those, and always reach out to the organizers of the hackathons if you have any questions. And then can I talk a little bit about the tech stack that I've used for machine learning projects? So I have mostly worked on research projects. For these ones, except for the hackathon projects, then the research projects don't necessarily involve deploying the models using some of the cloud technologies. Not going to name names. So for the research projects, it's usually just finding the data, and then you do a lot of feature engineering, train your model for the supervised machine learning tasks, and then validate and test it during your training process, and then test against real data, and then continue improving your model. And don't forget to tune your hyperparameters. Is there any other question? Any other resources for the rising sophomore? Yes. Major League Hacking is good to go about it if you're a college student or even a high school student. They have some summer hackathons going on every weekend these days, so do them virtually. Great way to gain experience. And other questions? Okay, what about getting over the lack of experience? I have industry experience, but not ML experience. That is great. If Sharon, if your industry experience is in a software-related field, then you already have the very important skills, because a lot of the machine learning in the data science positions, like data engineer, machine learning engineer, you will have to code. If you're a software programmer, it just makes everything so much easier. So for machine learning expertise, you could take courses online and create projects on your own time. Find a platform to collaborate with teammates. There are organizations. I will share the resources if you send me a private message, trying not to cover too much. Could you elaborate a little on getting started in hackathons? It looks difficult. I would say if you're new to hackathons, just very important thing to keep in mind is do not be scared. Do not be scared to ask for help. Ask for the mentors that are in the hackathons. Tell them you're a beginner, ask for advice, and actively participate in all of the workshops that they have. And they will have workshops on how to create your first web application and what kind of tech stack you should use. Do not be afraid. Even if your first application you attempt to finish doesn't work out, continue working on it even after the hackathon or during another one. And also, there would be teams who have more experienced engineers, and they are looking for someone who could give them a different perspective, even from a non-traditional computer science field. It'll be okay. So do not be scared that you lack experience or anything like that. How do I start an internship if you're just beginning? So Hannah asked this question. It's important to, yes, feel free to go attend your next session. I'm just going to try to finish answering the last few questions. As a beginner without previous experience, how do you gain an? So like I said, if you're in school, take the relevant classes, do side projects. Even it doesn't give you even if it doesn't have any monetary gain, it's always good to gain experience. Just like even software related experience will be great. I wish I had more time, otherwise I would be able to talk more about how the other non-machine learning experience contributed a great deal. Okay, so questions are around. I will definitely talk to you more in PM. Add me on LinkedIn. What different algorithm do you suggest that a beginner's profile must contain? That's a good question. For a beginner's profile, I would say if you just get started on a basic classification task, then you would be able to touch on the basic algorithms related to machine learning. So it's hard to answer it in one sentence, but feel free to chat with me after. Yes, how do you get in contact with me for more resources? Scan the QR code on the slide if you can still see it. I will definitely connect with all of you and answer all of your questions. I think that's pretty much it. Great. Really happy that you guys attended my session. I am really thrilled to be sharing my experience with all of you, and I am an advocate for women's success. So I would love to contribute whatever I could if you just send me a message on LinkedIn. I will schedule a video talk with you if that's something you need, or however I could help. with that, I will leave the presentation. If I could figure out how. Great. Thank you guys so much. I was very nervous. It was my first virtual presentation. Cool. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the I almost was going to say hackathon, the rest of the conference. Tomorrow, I think it's networking day. You can talk to a lot of the recruiters. Ask them what skills they need, what kind of experience you should aim toward getting if you are interested in the position in the data science and machine learning field. Great. Bye, guys.